So the big tax question is this: how do wealthy people keep their money working for them when selling their business, real estate, or other highly appreciated assets without paying hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in tax? What if we, as business and real estate owners who have poured blood, sweat, and tears to growing our wealth, and who didn't hire expensive tax attorneys and CPAs to map out an exit strategy, knew their secrets? Instead of recreating the wheel, why can't we just model the way they deferred 30 to 50% in tax, paid off debt, funded their next business dream, and most importantly, leave a financial legacy to give to the causes we believe in most? What if their secrets weren't complicated at all, and you just need a guide who is a few steps ahead of you? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Brett Swarts, and welcome to Capital Gains Tax Solutions. Welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way to grow your wealth. I'm your host, Brett Swarts, and each episode I'm joined by some of the best financial independence and passive income wealth advisors in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration so together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. Our next guest, he really is focused in the small to medium-sized business owners. And let's face it, many of these owners, they struggle with a financial control system and accounting, as well as organizational development and personal productivity and sales. Our next guest has spent 35 years helping hundreds of these business owners increase profits and develop systems to be more profitable. He's known as the profit doctor to many of his clients and customers, and now has a software which can help business owners take advantage of a specialized tax incentives to reduce their taxes. He resides in the state of Florida, which has some of the more favorable tax treatment for income tax since it's zero, and so he knows a two or thing about helping people reduce their taxes. Before we get started, you can learn more about our guest by emailing him at strydesavings.com. Going to his web address, which is strydesavings.com. That's spelled STRYDE savings.com. And emailing him at tsa@acpmgt.com. These are all being in the show notes for you. But please welcome to the show with me, Stephen Anderson. Stephen, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me to talk with your clients. My name is Steve Anderson, your profit doctor, and I've been a business consultant for more than 35 years, traveling the country, helping small business and medium-sized businesses overcome the obstacles that kept them from making more profits. And there's basically three areas that affect profits in any business. It's the financial management and control, and then organizational and personnel productivity, and then sales and marketing. And I work in all of those areas to help businesses increase more profits. Let me give you a little story about one of my clients. They were a $12 million corrugated box manufacturer in the secondary, and they sold their boxes to the secondary automotive business, which means that parts manufacturers would build their parts, put them in my clients' boxes, and ship them to the manufacturers like Ford, GM, and all that. And I don't know if you know anything about the automotive industry, but 2 months out of the year, all those sales are practically nothing because the major manufacturers are retooling for the next year. So anybody that sold any products to the manufacturers, their sales went down for 2 months as well. So that was a heartbreak for this business. So I got in there and I looked at everything about their business, and one of the first things we did was we fixed their financial control systems. We implemented a better accounting system whereby they could identify where their expenses were, and we did it by departments. We set up new departments, heads, and we also looked at their cash flow and how they handle that. They had a $1 million line of credit, which was almost tapped out, and that doesn't help, especially when it comes up to those 2 months. They were only making 300. Like I said, it was a $12 million company. They were making only $320,000 in profits. So that's not very good for manufacturing. So anyway, long story short, we got in there and we fixed all their financial issues. We trained and taught their managers how to read and understand their financial statements. We did budgeting. We did cash flow management. And then the next thing we worked on was setting up their organization and then training their managers how to be better managers and how to improve productivity in their employees. And then we worked on some other employee issues that made them more efficient. Then once we worked on that and fixed all those, then we looked at their sales and marketing. And again, because of their 2-month lag, we had to figure out a way to fix that problem. And basically, because they only sold to the secondary automotive business, they were really only a sales organization. They didn't really market. They only contacted those secondary manufacturers and basically sold their boxes. One of the things I wanted them to do is once we were working on their financials, we wanted them to pay down their line of credit as fast as possible. I didn't tell them why, but I knew we had to do something financially that would fix the 2-month lag. So eventually, after working with them 18 months, they got their line of credit down below $300,000, and their profits were a little over $1 million. So I had them go to a bank and ask for a $1.5 million loan to buy a special piece of equipment. And what that special piece of equipment does, it takes any corrugated materials and they can program whatever they want out of it. As an example, like I said, they were only working in the automotive industry. How many industries do you know that use corrugated boxes? Every single industry out there. Plus also, if you ever walk in a grocery store and you're walking down the aisles and you see these displays with like cookies on them, well, the displays are made out of corrugated materials. And they're very colorful. So this machine would take the materials and turn it into whatever they programmed into the machine. And also it had 4-color printing, which means they could print whatever they wanted on it. So now, once they had that machine, they bought the machine, they got the bank loan with no problem whatsoever. They got the company to train them on how to run it. And now their market opened up to any industry that had corrugated boxes, which basically every industry. So I had them hire a manager to do marketing, which they didn't have. And then that person's job was to find new markets for this new products. And again, the products was any kind of boxes, any kind of materials, displays even, that utilized corrugated boxes. And after doing that for 35 years, I got tired of all the travel that was necessary, and I wanted to spend more time with my family. So I quit that job. I quit that business, and then I wanted to start something that I could stay in business, but be in the St. Louis area. So I started as a real estate investor, and I would be buying and selling foreclosure properties. I would help individuals that are in foreclosure and negotiate with the banks to get a short sale. And then once I did all that, I bought the house and either sold it to an end buyer or to another investor, depending on the condition of the house. And I did that in St. Louis for a number of years. And one of the issues that I ran across was in St. Louis, Missouri, they are what's called a non-judicial state, which means that the banks don't have to go to court to get the foreclosure process started. All they have to do is hire a local attorney that handles that. And the attorneys, by law, have to put information on public records that they were starting the foreclosure process. But also in Missouri, it's a 30-day state, which means the moment that they put that in public records, 30 days later is when they had the auction. So I had to move really fast. So I figured out a way of getting in front of this and getting information on these foreclosures before even the owners knew about it. So I was able to get a lot of business that way because of my letters that was very personal and not the typical ones that you see everybody else sending them. Long story short, I did that for 17 years in St. Louis, and my wife and I wanted to move to Orlando to be with our oldest daughter because she was starting a family. So we left St. Louis and moved to Orlando, Florida. And then obviously I wanted to continue business. So I tried doing that foreclosure business in Orlando, but that didn't work out too well because the laws in Florida is totally different. They have to go to court because it's called a judicial state. And by the time that they get into court and go through the whole process, it could be several years before the foreclosure auction happened. And I noticed that there was no motivation for these people that live in the house, and they can live in this house 2, 3 years without making any payments whatsoever and not even worry about being kicked out because it takes that long to go through the foreclosure process. So I had to find something else other than foreclosures because that didn't work. So I started working in other distressed property areas like probate, vacant houses, all of those different ones. And I negotiate with the owners to buy the property, and then I wholesale all of those properties. And I've been doing that for 5 years here in Orlando. But now it's got to the point where there's there that are trying to be wannabe investors, but they're screwing up deals after deal after deal. So I had to get back into something that would really work. So I wanted to go back into my consulting business, but I didn't want to travel as much as I used to. So I hooked up with a company called Stryde, and what they do is they look at a variety of different types of expenses that businesses typically overpay. As an example, credit card processing, waste and recycling, workers' comp, HR costs, and office supplies and office equipment. All of those areas are expenses that we can reduce. And the way we do this is we developed a proprietary software program whereby we can ask the questions to these owners, and then I enter the information into the computer software, and then at the same time, within 15 minutes, I can show them how much money we anticipate we can save them, because this software program is connected to federal, state, and local databases as well as industry databases. And we've been doing this for 18 years and thousands of clients in many, many different types of industries. So we have access to a wide range of data. But long story short, we can run this software program, and within 15 minutes, I can show them how much money we can put back in their pocket by offering our services. So we do this for no cost. And then once the client sees the numbers, which they always love, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars typically, then we ask them, do they want us to do a detailed analysis so we can find out exactly how much money we can put back in their pocket? And again, we do this for no charge whatsoever. So once we run through this detailed analysis, we need to collect some documentations from the client. So we ask them specifics based on the answers they gave us on the software program, specific documentation. And then once we get the documentation, our Stryde has a wealth of consultants and specialists that will look over all the documentation and then go through and identify what areas and exactly how much money we can put back in their pocket. And then once we do all of the expenses, we also looked at specialized tax incentives. And because of our software program being access to all of the federal government and state government programs, we can do a wide variety of specialized tax incentives. As an example, if you own a commercial property, we can do what's called engineered cost segregation. And what that means is that CPAs can't do this because they have to have an engineering degree, whereby we go in and look at a commercial property and we look at all the component parts. And once we look at the component parts, we can identify things like electrical, plumbing, wiring, and all these other different parts. There's about 12 different component parts that we can look at, and we identify the value of those individual items compared to the total value of the property. In the past, what the CPAs would do is they would take the value of the property and rehab and divide it by the number of years that IRS allows, typically like 27 years, and they do what's called straight line depreciation. What that means is they take the value of the property plus any rehab costs divided by the 27 years, and that's how much money they can depreciate each year. And depreciation obviously means that they can reduce their taxes by that dollar amount. Well, what we do is we do the engineering cost seg study, and we accelerate the depreciation quickly because each one of those component parts is a new depreciation schedule. It could even be as low as 5 years. So we take, let's say, $1 million property. They spend $100,000 on electrical. So we take $100,000 divided by 5 instead of the 27 years. And we do that for each individual component. And we can save hundreds and thousands of dollars in taxes just in that one area alone. Then we also negotiate property taxes for the commercial property owners. And we do this, again, all of this work that we're doing, we charge the client nothing. We're using our time, effort, and money to do all this work for them. And also for certain companies, we have R&D tax savings.
So, Steve, I have a question. So
yes,
you charging them nothing. You're adding all this value. And by the way, what an amazing story you have with not only business consulting, but then foreclosure, real estate investing, and then back into tax incentives and other ways to help businesses be more profitable here. So it's as I could see why they call you the profit doctor, because you have so much experience and so much knowledge to share and help people in creative ways. Curious though, so once you do the cost seg study and once you show the savings and the other savings as well, it sounds like there's property tax. There's
Well, to answer your question, we also do. Let me piggyback on what you just said. We also do R&D tax credits, energy credits, and hiring incentives called WOTC. And the way we do it is we go through and based on the answers that they give us as well as the documentation they give us, we analyze everything. And then once we come through and do the analysis, then we put together a report and give it to the owners of what we found out. As an example, when we do the cost seg study, it takes them several months because of the extensive research they have to go through. And also at the same time, once we put together the documentation, we're working with the IRS to ensure everything we're putting in the documentation is up to snuff with the IRS. So once we get that documentation done, then we print out the report, we give it to the client, and then at that moment in time, they owe us money only when we can get a substantial savings. As an example, with the cost seg study, we only charge 10% of whatever we're saving them. So then once we get that report, the owner can give that report to the CPA, which actually files. And because we've already worked with the IRS, we have zero audits on any of our cost seg studies because we've already worked with the IRS before we even send it to the client. And then all of our other services, we charge a different fee. As an example, for our property taxes, we charge 50% of that first savings. And then hiring incentives, 15%, property tax mitigation, 50%, credit card processing, waste and recycling, and workers' comp, we charge 50% again, only of the savings. If we do our due diligence and we don't find any substantial savings, you pay us nothing.
So the key is, the savings. And as long as the savings are big enough, then the fees will be based upon that amount. That's excellent. So let me shift gears a little bit, Stephen. What's the most rewarding part of what you do?
I love helping businesses, and you can see my history as I'm working with businesses for 35 years, traveling the country, helping them solve their profit problems. Then I was helping individuals from losing their house and helping individuals, again, in distressful situations. And then now back to businesses again, helping them put more cash back in their pocket by reducing all of these expenses and taxes. And
so
each one of these
helping people is the key thing. So I'm curious.
Yes.
Who was Steve growing up? What gifts were you given? I think we're all given certain gifts in this life. And I'm just curious, what gifts were you given, Steve? And how does that help how has that shaped how you help others today?
Well, I grew up with a middle-class family in Miami, and we lived on canal, which means that I was in the water constantly most of the day. And I, just enjoyed the South Florida weather. So I eventually got to the point where I had to go to college just to stay out of the draft, because this is back in 1968, 70. there was a draft back then. And then when we finally got to the point where there's no more draft, I had to go into the military. So I joined the Navy and started fixing airplanes. So I enjoyed that for 8 years, traveling the Mediterranean. And then I came back and started working on McDonnell Douglas in St. Louis. And that's why I went to St. Louis as a mechanic as well. So helping fix things and helping fix business problems has been my background for many years. And I taught colleges, I taught seminars and for businesses and how to overcome all these obstacles. So my business background is training and helping others become more successful.
That's a great gift to have, helping others be more successful. And wow, what a journey with the military and with all the different businesses. So I consider you a business wealth advisor. I mean, I don't know if there's a better definition of a business wealth advisor than yourself. Shifting gears a little bit, what should every other wealth advisor, such as a financial advisor or a commercial real estate broker or a commercial real estate syndicate or a business brokers, because I consider them wealth advisors too for their niche, but what should all of those other wealth advisors know about what you do? And perhaps you work with some of them now, and how do they best leverage, working with your services and expertise to grow their business? In other words, how do you collaborate with other business professionals so together you guys can help, these business owners who need a lot of help?
Exactly. Well, what I do with any other business service provider is I work with them hand in hand as a strategic partner, whereby I can provide my services through their business, and their clients think they are the ones that are actually providing the service. So I teach these service providers, tell your clients you've added on new services that will generate more income, cash in their business. And all they have to do is get me in touch with a client, and I do all my work. I do my computer program. I do the analysis to get them hooked up with Stryde. And when I get paid my commission, then I give these people 25% of whatever I make. So they make additional income by providing more services that clients really need, because how many businesses want to increase their cash flow by reducing expenses and taxes?
Every one of them do, right? And
There
so
we go.
we all need those experts in those places. So that's great. So you work hand in hand as kind of like an extension of their team and a strategic partner, and you go do your work and help the client. So it's a win there. You win because you get more business, and then you give them a referral fee, so they win too. I think that's a great business model. So wrapping it up, Stephen, I'm curious, how do you stay centered in your values and stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new goals? Because you've accomplished a lot in your lifetime, and you're accomplishing more and more and more. And what a story you have. But so how do you really stay centered in your values along the way and really encouraged to charge forward to reach your goals?
I have a vision board on my wall, and I have one of them that I constantly look at. It says, as my commitment to help others grows, so does my wealth. So that pretty much sums it up. But my main goal is helping as many businesses make more money, because that's what business is all about, making money and growing. And also at the same time, once we get all of these issues worked out, then we have other services which we can provide. Business loans. We have over 26 different business loans, real estate loans. We do business brokerage, franchise development. And we even have an owner's retirement plan that puts more cash in the pocket of the owner once they retire than any other retirement plan on the market.
That's phenomenal. I want to dig into that quote you said, because I think this is really powerful. And let me see if I heard it correctly. As my commitment to help others grows, so does my wealth.
Yes.
Walk us through that. Is that something you read, a leadership book, or is that something that you've developed yourself?
No, I subscribe to many different types of motivational issues, and I got this from one of them. I forget exactly which one it was, but it was one of those types where you buy the product and then it shows up on your screen, and then it scrolls to the next motivational issue, and then next one and next one, and keeps doing that. So that's one of the ones I like the best, and I like it so much I print it out, put it on my vision wall, and I look at it every single day.
I think that's fantastic. And talk to us about your commitment. So when your commitments are fading, or when you're not feeling encouraged to go through on your commitments, what helps you to charge forward to make sure you actually stay true to your commitments?
Are you ready for this?
For our listeners, you may not be able to see it, but I'm presuming that might be some grandkids there that are laughing. Is that true?
This is what's called a press the button and has the baby crying or laughing. But yes, I have two grandsons, age 5 and 6, and one of them sounds like the youngest one laughing, and that is the reason why my wife and I moved to Orlando, so we could be next to our grandkids and spoil the heck out of them.
Wow.
That's what keeps me going. Anytime I get a little mentally low, I just press that button and it gets me right back up where I need to be.
I think that's fantastic, and that's a great way to wrap up our show here as we're coming up on our time. So I want to remind everybody that you can find Steve Anderson, the Profit Doctor, to help you grow your business and take advantage of so many specialized tax incentives to reduce your taxes. And he can be found at StrydeSavings.com. That's STRYDE savings.com. But you can also email him direct at TSA@acpmgt.com. That's TSA@acpmgt.com. And Stephen, what's the phone number too? If they wanted to call you direct, is it okay if you give your phone number here?
Sure. 407-530-7783. And I am offering to all the people on this podcast a free analysis of your business. And on the website, there should be a link to download the questionnaire. Once you fill that questionnaire out, there's the information on there and where to send it to, and then I'll do your free analysis to find out how much money I can put back in your pocket, and then we'll get you on the phone once I finish that and discuss it with you and show you how much money we can put back in your pocket quickly because we're reducing expenses and taxes.
Capital Gains Tax Solutions Nation, I can't think of a better way to help you grow your wealth in this upcoming year, but to take advantage of that free offer from Steve Anderson and reach out to him. Click on the link in the show notes, and let's go make some more money here by paying less taxes and actually really net more money by paying next taxes. So I want to thank you, Stephen, for being on the show, and I also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy is the best way to grow your wealth. Until next time, go make it a great day.
You have just listened to another information-packed episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions with Brett Swarts. We hope you enjoyed today's show and found it helpful. Visit capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to access the show notes and to access more resources. Don't forget to leave a review and join us again next time.